Hey everyone, it's Ashley. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you this Cup of Joe border die that is included in the Celebrate Friends with Coffee edition of the newest stamp of approval. There are two border dies in this set, but this is the one that I will be focusing on. It has the scalloped edge with the tiny little cuts that come out of the middle. First thing I'm going to do is ink blend Rose Petals, which is a color by Catherine Pooler for her inks. And I'm going to do this all over a piece of Catherine Pooler premium white cardstock. And her cardstock is especially smooth, so it makes it really easy to blend, and it's my favorite cardstock to use when blending any inks, really, even like distress oxides or just regular distress inks. And especially her inks, which work perfectly with the paper, and that's what it was sort of formulated and made for. I wanted to offer a different way to use a border die because they sometimes intimidate me a bit, so I wanted to offer a way that you could use them that you might not think or might not have thought about using them before. So I'm going to die cut these in a way where it makes a pattern with each other, sort of like a lacy pattern. So to cut them out, I'm just going to do it as close to the edge as I can so I can get as many cuts out of one piece of cardstock as possible. And I'm just going to place it with a piece of painter's tape so that it does not shift when it's going through my die cutting machine. And as you can see, you get this really great cut, and you'll just need to run your fingers or a sort of like a pointy tool through just to make sure that you get all of those pieces in the center out. And I go along with my fingers at first, but then I'm going to just grab a pair of tweezers and just poke out the little pieces here that are supposed to have been cut out with the die. And it's actually kind of satisfying watching it happen now. These tiny little die cuts are definitely like a labor of love, but they're so worth it in the end. So now I'm going to put it the opposite direction, right on the opposite side of that die cut. So this is going to cut that pattern out just as it has, but on the opposite side. So now you're going to have sort of like this double scalloped edge that you'll see when I pull this off here. And you just want to be careful with the painter's tape because of course you don't want to rip anything off. So this is what I had made. This was the sort of design that I had in mind when I thought of this border die when I first saw it. And now as I'm planning my card, I'm just putting it against a 4 by 5 1/4 piece of cardstock and just seeing how it looks on there. And I actually think it looks so nice. It looks so lacy and girly, just like I wanted it to look. And I'm very excited at this point for this card. So I got almost 3 full pieces of this sort of design out of that one piece of cardstock that I ink blended rose petals onto. But I also wanted to show you the really cool little design that came out from between the die cuts, and I'm definitely saving these to do something with these in a future card because those are really cool. So I'm going to make the pattern on my cardstock now, or my card front. So what I'm doing is just gluing it with some Tombow Mono liquid glue, and then I'm going to trim the excess off by turning the card front around and so I can see what's overhanging and just trim that all off so it looks nice and flush with the rest of the card front. I didn't have a great idea of what I was going to do when I started making these designs, but it all just came together once I started seeing all the pieces, and I think that's why sometimes it's important just to sit down and start crafting and getting into your stash and playing around, and then you can really figure out what you want to do after you've started. So you can see that I did the same exact thing for the top of the card front as I did for the bottom of the card front, and now I'm just adhering this center piece here, and I'm going to do the same thing, just trim off the side so it looks nice and flush to the card front. And this really looks like a doily to me or something like that, the card front, so I definitely wanted to keep it very girly. And so you'll see that I keep that theme throughout, and this is such a cool design that this border die gave. I'm going to use the Celebrate word die, which is also included in either option for the stamp of approval, either the coffee or tea. And I've die cut this twice out of some premium white cardstock as well. You've seen me use this in the past. This is just basically like a Versamark. It's a clear, sticky ink, but it's in a dauber. So I'm able to take the word die that I've already die cut and apply it really easily all over the word die itself so that I can put some gold embossing powder right over top and emboss that. And the reason that I don't use my Versamark pad is just because I find that when things are already die cut, it works a little easier for me with the dauber. To give a little bit of dimension and stability to the die cut, I just use the Tombow Mono liquid glue and adhere the embossed die cut right over the white cardstock die cut so that you can't really see the white underneath. And it gives it a lot of stability and a little bit more dimension that I can add it to the card, almost like a chipboard. I go ahead and play with it a little bit to make sure that it's over top and nothing is hanging over. I don't want the white to show through. I want it just to look like a nice thick piece of like gold die cut. So I also take some overhanging glue off just to make sure that it doesn't get too sticky when I'm trying to figure out where I want it on my card. And I've tried a couple places and I think that I like this one here at the bottom half of the card. So it's like in the center. If you were to cut it in half, it's in the center of the bottom half. But I also try it in the middle. And I think that it's just overtaken a little bit by that center die cut piece that we used for the border die. It's just a little too busy, so I end up just choosing to put it in that white space down at the bottom. To adhere it to the card front, I again use my Tombow Mono liquid glue. Just make sure that I get every little nook and cranny there on the back and use my tweezers to get a good grip on it and just adhere it right into that white space, right into the center of that white space that you had seen us try out before. Now I'm going to adhere this entire card front to an A2 size card base or card front, depending on how you like to store your cards until you give them away. And I'm going to do that using a permanent double-sided tape. I think that there's enough dimension with the double-sided word die or the double-layered word die and the actual die cuts that we use the die border for, or the border die for, so that's why I'm not using foam tape. This is always where I take so long because I want to make sure that it's even. Not that anybody I give it to would even notice, but I know if it's a little too high, a little too low, or a little bit to the left or the right, and I know that I need to just take it easy on myself like we all do, but I just make sure that it's nice and even. So I'm going to add some gold Nouveau crystal drops, and you can see that I got a little bit on the paper off to the right of that drop, so I'm just carefully taking my X-Acto knife and scraping any that might have been left over onto the white of the cardstock, and it looks okay. Not all of the Nouveau drops are perfect, obviously, but what really is. But that's it. That's the entire card. I think it looks so cool. It's such a different way to use a border die, and I always love stretching my supplies, so I thought this was a great way to do that. I hope that you've enjoyed seeing a different way to use a border die and seeing how I created this card. Let me know what your favorite piece of the Stamp of Approval collection is, and I will see you guys very soon. Thanks for watching.